Coming up on Added Time.
The alleged handball.
Alleged, you mean clear?
If Pep Guardiola leaves Manchester City.
Says who?
They think that Aston Villa are going to be champions, so there you go.
The Simpsons.
The Simpsons, I saw that the other day.
I'd call Chelsea the weirdest team in the Premier League.
Iraola is 100 times more valuable than Semenyo.
Season's greetings.
Yes, and to you,
yes,
and
Merry
to you all,
Christmas, Merry
and
Christmas
to everyone.
who's watching.
Survived it? Yep.
Yeah, of course we are. Yeah.
Only just.
Upcoming to the new year now, that's another question.
What do you do for New Year's?
Normally just stay home and watch the fireworks.
Oh.
I
big one,
consider not really. Yeah, that's all.
Family.
Usually sleep.
Family, yeah.
Family. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
together.
Not talking down the ability to go out and, see the sunrise the next morning, but anyway, we're just
That's
quiet
behind
men
us.
here at Added Time. Hey, just before we start, want to remind people of this amazing competition that Stan Sport have got going at the moment. You and three mates to London for Spurs Newcastle. I didn't choose the fixture. I can't enter, but it'll be one to remember. In February, return business class flights. Imagine that plane trip. 7 nights accommodation at a 5-star hotel, stadium tour at Spurs, dinner at the Ivy Soho, which Boz made mention last week is a wonderful restaurant. All you've got to do is say 25 words or less, the most memorable Premier League moment and why. Give people out there a little bit of a indication of what they could write.
Yeah.
It's got to be Sergio Aguero, the winning goal against QPR. I think it was in 2013. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. To bring Manchester City their first title in, I think it was, back then it would have been about 40 years or 30 years.
A very long time.
A very, very long time. And just the way it came about, because remember, all they had to do was win their last home game to win the title, and QPR, who were down to 10 men,
After Joey
we're
Barton started
we're
the fight.
actually winning. We're winning 2-1.
Yeah.
We've literally added time to go. They didn't add as much time as they do these days, but Edin Dzeko, remember, got the one to equalise, and then Aguero right in the last minute after
Incredible.
Balotelli did what he did.
Foz?
No football fan will ever forget that the celebration was, staggering. Everyone remembers where they were. I particularly liked 2016 when Leicester won.
Yeah.
I just think it gave all of the non-top 5 clubs hope and showed that as much as the big ones are taking most of the trophies, there's always some hope, not just for those clubs, but for those players, for those coaches, and particularly for those fans. So Leicester fans all around the world, that's a moment that none of us will ever forget, and for them, they'll remember it for the rest of their lives.
And you, Adam?
Mine's a series of moments. Is that Mark Bosnich never winning at St James's Park? That's become so memorable for me for some reason.
I'm going to check that. I think I won a reserve game. I did win a reserve game.
Doesn't count, buddy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but those two are pretty good as well.
Tough place to go.
Definitely
it
pretty
is a
good.
tough
But
place to
all the information on your screen right now about how to enter and 25 words or less, the most memorable Premier League moment. I think
Amazing.
a bit of uniqueness about the entry will get you a long way.
Yeah,
with
for
that,
sure.
So.
And when is it? And so when is it finish?
I'm not sure, but February is the trip, so I'd say
Better get in.
February.
Yep.
January sometime, I'm being told in my year. But all the information's available to you, so it's all there on the screen. Onside, offside, let's go get going with some football discussion on this Added Time. We'll start with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who I think is one of the best stories of the Premier League in the first half of the season. He's obviously gone from Everton to Leeds and rediscovered his form and his untapped ability again. 6 consecutive games. So, speaking of Jamie Vardy in 2016, he was a big part of Leicester City. Dominic Calvert-Lewin will equal or better Jamie Vardy's record of scoring in 11 consecutive Premier League games.
That's just crazy. That's just crazy.
Yeah, onside, offside.
Well, who have they got to play against?
Leeds have got Liverpool, Manchester United, Newcastle, Fulham, Everton.
Yep.
And if he is to break it and go 12, he's got to score against Arsenal.
Wow.
As well. So yes or no, he'll break it.
No.
Come on.
Offside.
Offside.
No
Offside,
chance.
Yeah.
No chance.
No
You want to move
chance.
on? No.
Okay.
No,
Fair
I don't think it's
All right.
happening. Against that quality of opposition, I very much doubt it, yeah.
Well, the way things are going, I've got to say,
The way he's playing.
you never know. I mean, he's got 8 goals so far in the Premier League. Leeds have trying their best to get back into, basically a point where they can say, we've got a chance of staying up. They're doing very well at that. They're on 20 points at the moment outside the relegation zone. Only 2 points behind Bournemouth, who've gone through a really bad patch. And look, I'm going to still say offside, no, but I'd love for him to see him do it.
Yeah, he's scored in 6 consecutive games, and I don't know if you've seen his goal map, but they're all pretty much in the same position, so he's a real poacher at the moment. Aston Villa. OK, Boz, OK.
Here we
wanted
go.
to get the question too.
Come on.
They equalled the 111-year club record, 11 wins in a row by, of course, getting past Chelsea and another comeback win. Villa will break their club record and flip the title race on its head by beating Arsenal within the next 12 hours as we sit here and record.
What do you think I'm going to say? Onside, of course.
Onside?
Yeah. Look, it's strange because in the league, if you watch them against Chelsea, their average age is the highest in the league.
Yep.
And ironically, Chelsea's is the lowest. And that game the other day, you could really see that. Chelsea for the first, I would say, 58 minutes until Unai Emery made those 3 substitutions, which proved vital, were the better team and deservedly led. And unlucky enough they get a penalty, it must be said as well. For the alleged handball by Ian Maatsen, the left back for Aston Villa.
Yep.
And then...
alleged, you meant clear.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know if Neto actually pushed his arm up a little bit. I think that's the only thing that perhaps saved him. But then, just like a more experienced side do, they came really strong. As soon as those substitutions were made, Ollie Watkins run Chalobah and Badiashile ragged.
Yep.
And they won. And at the moment, the way that they're playing, in the mood that they're in, I really think they've got a massive opportunity to beat Arsenal, who have been stuttering of late. They have been still winning, which is a sign of a good team, but not with the same free-flowing style that they had earlier on in the season.
And look past this Arsenal game as well, and this show is going to be obviously available after full time, so we don't know what's going to happen. However, Foz, unless they get tapped 6-0 and lose 3 players to serious injuries, I can't see them going away at the moment. The way that they're playing, the way that they're able to manage games without the ball as much as with the ball is so impressive and a hallmark of the manager.
It very much is. So they've won more points from losing positions this season than anyone. And that is in part because of outstanding use of substitutions and reading of games by Emery. Like, you know, he knows how opponents play, he knows what's likely to happen, he has scenario A, B, C. If this happens, I can do this, I bring these 2 on, I bring these. So, you know, it's all that kind of scenario planning that goes on at this top level, and he does it probably better than anyone. And at the moment, it's all paying off. And they're riding so high on confidence as well that they could very well win that game, definitely.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be obviously a massive indicator of the seriousness of Aston Villa's title challenge and how Arsenal are going to stand up to the heat that will start to come upon them as they get closer and closer to the prize. 17 of the last 33 Premier League titles, those who have been on top at Christmas have gone on to win. So once again, it's in Arsenal's favour. But the Simpsons, who we know like to predict a lot of things.
Simpsons?
Yeah, I saw this the other day. The Simpsons, who we know like their cartoon characters like to predict a lot of things come true. They think that Aston Villa are going to be champions. So there you go.
The Simpsons?
The Simpsons. I saw that the other day. How's that?
This is the first time I've ever heard you reference one of the great productions.
I saw it the other day. Aston Villa champions. And it would be 30 years. First time in 30 years that they've won a major trophy.
And first time in 30 years that Simpsons have actually predicted an EPL champions.
First time I've heard him reference. He's always referencing Seinfeld.
But I saw it the other day. They had Aston Villa champions. I was like, wow, OK.
Oh, maybe they know something.
Yeah.
The team that they last beat, as we sit here, Chelsea, Enzo Maresca.
Yeah.
He's been floating about the news in a weird sense in the last couple of weeks. So he's come out and bagged a lack of support at the club, said it's not the fans, but didn't want to say any more, because I think he maybe have overstepped the mark and then realised that, OK, I won't pour any more petrol on it. They've got 1 win in their last 6.
In the Premier League. They won, in the Premier League. They won that game, obviously.
But after that, after he came out and said that, about a week later, all of a sudden, he becomes target number 1 if Pep Guardiola leaves Manchester City.
Says who?
David Ornstein reported in The Athletic. Now, he's a journalist who's pretty close to the mark and listens intently to the right people behind the scenes in the game. So I think there's a bit of credence in that, just going off past experience with Ornstein. However, the question is onside, offside. Maresca will replace Pep Guardiola when Pep eventually steps aside.
Well, I'm going to go onside. He's been there before. He's been his assistant. He showed the quality he has as a manager thus far, in my opinion, at Chelsea. And a lot of Chelsea supporters are not over the moon with him, but a lot of that's to do with the fact that they were so used to being successful during the Abramovich era. And this time it's been a little bit more, we're going to have to take our time. We did win the Conference League last season, got into the Champions League. are still a dark horse, like we said at the start of the season, in my opinion, for the title, although that's slipping even more as time goes by, but they still are a dark horse. And the biggest advantage, coming back to what I originally said, he's worked underneath Pep, he's worked at Manchester City, he knows exactly what's entailed and exactly what's expected of him. So I'm going to say onside. I think he's going to be the top candidate to replace him.
He's going to be one of them. I think the challenge that he's having is they're so inconsistent with Chelsea at the moment. So the thing about Guardiola that has made him great, and perhaps the greatest, is that he can produce that football that Maresca has also learned, but he can also produce it at the highest levels and win trophies with it. Right? And Maresca's going to have to prove that. I mean, only a couple of months ago, they were flying, and now all of a sudden he's on a downer again. Then they beat Barcelona, then they lose to Atalanta, and then, Palmer and Cucurella both came off with some injury concerns, Cucurella anyway. But, that was a really damaging loss to Aston Villa. As you say, they were the better team, and then they've conspired to lose it. So that's what I think. If I'm Manchester City, if I'm sitting there as sporting director or something, that's the question mark that is over him, that he's going to have to improve. There's no doubt that those who've come through under Guardiola are going to be in the frame. They're going to be the primary options to replace him, that's for sure. They understand the system, they've worked in it. I think Company is another one that's going to be really interesting. If Bayern Munich obviously doing fantastically well. In only 2 seasons, he's actually improved them out of side. He's going still forward. He's still taking them up. And different league, but he's not experiencing the dramatic inconsistency that Maresca is doing. That I think is going to be the question.
I'd call Chelsea the weirdest team in the Premier League.
Well, I wouldn't because of the fact that I brought up at the start of the show. They got the youngest average age squad-wise. Yeah. And with young players, that's how it is, Adam. You talk about when things are going well, they're going really well. And then when they don't, it tends to become a habit as well. That's
but this is happening in games a lot. Yeah, both.
But that's what I'm saying to you with young players. That's what happens. And that's where you need a little bit of sprinkling of experience to turn around and go, hang on. Like, for example, against Aston Villa. Even when Aston Villa equalised, which was literally, 4 or 5 minutes after those 3 substitutions on the 58th minute, that was, they still had over an hour being the better team. To say, OK, relax, let's just get back to doing what we're doing and playing the normal way, and we should be OK here. But when you've got a young side and you haven't got experienced heads to actually to turn around and to say that and to actually start doing that, it can be very, very pendulum-like. So either very, very good or very, very bad. And the momentum just changes almost immediately. It's a big thing from a mental perspective, and that's what young players, last but least, get as they're going through their careers.
Because with Pep, you look at when he will vacate, and there's been speculation for every year for the last 5 years he's going to go. This time around, and this is back to the David Ornstein article, that they reported that he signed a 2-year deal, but there's no guarantee he'll be there for the second year. It was primarily brought in to take away the thought in these next few months, will he, won't he be around? But the moment he vacates, that becomes one of the great jobs in football, if not the greatest job in football, because you don't have that instability like at a Real Madrid, Barcelona, where there's always speculation with the way those clubs are run. You look at some of the big clubs in England, that there's always that need to get better straight away.
The owners, for example, like the Chelsea owners and all these people who really messed it up, and at Spurs, whereas they're very, very stable, the ownership of Manchester City, that's for sure. And when they brought Guardiola, they brought a whole group of them, sporting directors and others across from Barcelona, if you remember. Yeah,
it was set up for Pep, essentially, the way that they structured
and so the transition, is going to be well managed. And so the question, I guess, for Guardiola is, does he hang on, even potentially a following season or whatever, in order to make sure that the right candidate is also ready? Is ready to win, has been winning trophies wherever they're bringing him from. There's got to be. I mean, the other one is an option. I guess it'll depend on what happens, but also Arteta. He's a very interesting one. But I mean, if you're going to win, if he wins this season, why are you going to leave the Gunners?
After building that all up, 100%.
Exactly. So,
the other thing to take into consideration, 2 things. We've seen both Arsenal and especially Manchester United struggle after replacing long-term managers. And Guardiola's been there for, 10 years now? So they're probably thinking as well, the club, he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's sort of rewrote the record books in so many ways. You know, winning 4 straight titles, bringing us the Champions League, countless other trophies. But we don't really want to have that type of hangover that we're seeing with other clubs.
Arsenal, Manchester United.
Yes, and another thing to take into consideration as well, I'm sure he would like to leave by winning something. So I think if they do happen to win the title or the Champions League, maybe not one of the other two, like the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, which is still in, but definitely the title, the Champions League, then I think he will go. He'll like to go off on a winning note.
Oh, he's got Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, so that's not going to happen in the semi-final. Bournemouth, flying start to the season.
Yeah.
Iriola, we're talking about, what big club is going to come and get him and prize him away. Hasn't gone so well since about October. You foreshadowed this, Boz. You thought they were going to kind of tail off a little. But the Antoine Semenyo transfer saga, which may be solved in the coming days, he's got a clause up until, I think, the middle of January to say he can leave for £65 million. Clause goes after that period, but those transfer rumours about their best player arguably has unsettled Bournemouth more than we can understand perhaps on the outside.
I would say definitely onside, so definitely yes about that. And I did at the start of the season, you know, I said to everyone, you know, I thought that they would really struggle because they lost their whole back four plus their goalkeeper, but they were outstanding. And we were here talking about the fact that, you know, like the way things are going for them, that they could really qualify for Europe. And when I'm in Europe, I'm in Europa League or Conference League. I wasn't, you know, too confident about, you know, at that time when I said that about the Champions League. But I always had that in the back of my head because they lost all those players. Now, Antoine Semenyo, from day one against Liverpool, has been absolutely outstanding. There's no doubt about that. And it has played a part in unsaid. They haven't won in 9 games since October. They've got massive games coming up. They've got Chelsea away, then they've got Arsenal at home, then they've got Tottenham at home, and then they've got your beloved Newcastle away as well, which is going to be so hard. They've got to be very careful. If they happen to lose him, you know, they're there on 22 points. You could say, yes, it's only 7 points off 5th place in Chelsea, but it's also, you know, it's only 7 points as well. 9 points off the relegation zone. I got it right here. Yeah. So they've got to be very, very careful. Yeah, they've got to be very careful.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, what I was going to say is the ones below aren't going to get a lot more points, so they don't need to worry, I think, too much about, you know, the relegation places and so on. The onside offside, I would say, is that Iriola is 100 times more valuable than Semenyo.
So keep him, whatever you can do.
Yeah,
I think he's staying until the end of the season, but his contract situation is a question as well.
Yeah, so look at what happened with Wolves. You know, a couple of seasons ago, good, and then all of a sudden they've gone through three technical directors, 3 coaches,
Yeah.
So that guy you need to get hold of. Yes, the player's important. He had a brilliant first half to the season. But if we're talking about all the other clubs who've been so unsettled with these turnovers of managers, and you're talking about Manchester City and good management, meaning keep when you've got someone good, keep them on board, and don't undervalue what these coaches are actually bringing in creating an environment, understanding the league, capability to take on the best teams, as well as guarantee safety but pushing for European places. Iriola is a perfect example to me. If you're in a club like that where you don't have as much money, that you're not going to be able to compete with the top, and you need stability year on year, you have to tie him down now. And if you lose one player, it's not the most important element.
Still to come on Added Time.
He felt like he was in a straitjacket with Pep Guardiola in that.
Which he was. And he was just slaughtering it, saying this is just an absolute farce, this is just a joke, why is anyone talking about it?
In terms of the parameters of a game, I think it's completely overblown.
Coaches can no longer say, oh, we did fantastic and we did this and that and we should have won the game. Well, you shouldn't have won the game.
I'm with you, AG. Last week on Added Time, we discussed who's been the best striker acquisition this season. Let's open it up for the rest of the positions on the field. Give us a player or players that you feel have made the biggest impact after arriving at their club in the summer break. Foz, you've got a couple of names?
Let me say this. I was very hopeful about Wirtz. I think he's been very good without destroying the league that I thought there was potentially could do. It's probably for me between 2, Cherky at Manchester City, and one of the reasons is because you are coming in to replace creative players who are at the very top, very peak of global football.
Kevin De Bruyne.
De Bruyne, that's right, and also Silva, who is Bernardo, who is on the wane. So you're coming into the scenario where the people in those attacking positions, doesn't matter which one it is, you're in the same pockets. You're expected to do the same things. They've been the very best in Europe, winning Champions Leagues, winning multiple Premier Leagues. So I think to step into that and demonstrate that you're capable of doing it is outstanding. But if I had to put one on one, it'd be Zubimendi. I think he's to me comfortably the signing of the season.
So
anyway,
he's lived up to it because that's what they went for, Arsenal. They needed someone, a press resistant,
exactly.
That term.
That's right.
But also someone to start the play who was a little better on the ball than Declan Rice.
That's right.
Thomas
and
Partey.
allow Rice to go.
Yeah.
But I think he is superior in that number 6 position, but he also then frees the rest of the midfield, which is also critical to what they've been doing. So as a final piece, and people talk about Gyökeres as being it, I think he was really it. There's many better number 9s than Gyökeres, many. But there's not many better number 6s than Zubimendi in world football at the moment.
Completely agree. I would say Zubimendi, but for the sake of going somebody else as well, a little bit different, Granit Xhaka. Absolutely outstanding. A massive part.
Is that the kickback for mentioning you never won at St James's Park?
No, not at all. I would have said Zubimendi as well. And I always like to go off a player's team, how well they're doing. They're top of the table. They've been exceptional in the Champions League as well. So they're in the semi-finals of the League Cup. So I would say Zubimendi, but Granit Xhaka, what an unbelievable impact. 7th place. If you'd said at the start of the season that coming to the halfway point, one game off the halfway, that Sunderland would be in 7th place on 28 points.
Impossible.
People would have laughed at you. They really would have.
Especially after last season.
Yeah. And he's been exactly. He's been an integral part of that. We saw what he did with Bayer Leverkusen. He was an integral part of that season when they won. Basically, they went 52 games. They weren't beaten out of 53. That was just amazing. Only lost that game against Atalanta in the Europa League final.
It's true.
He's a great leader. He shows how important it is to make sure that you control the middle of the park, because majority of the time when you control the middle of the park, you will win. There are exceptions, we know that. And really, so far as I'm concerned, like I said, he can really hold his hand up there with Zubimendi, whoever else you want to throw at as in terms of being a great signing. What about yourself, Adam?
I've got a couple. Like Jack Grealish has made an undoubted impact at Everton, and when he plays well, Everton generally do something.
Yeah, he's enjoying his game again, which is nice to see.
Yeah, like he felt like he was in a straitjacket with Pep Guardiola in that season after he did so well with the treble. Brian Mbeumo, Boz as well. I watched the Boxing Day game against Newcastle, obviously, and I think if Mbeumo plays, Manchester United arguably win 2-3-0. Given how little of the ball that they had, but
to be fair to your Newcastle, they had their chances. I mean, really, they should have got something out of that game.
Don't
make him feel better.
All right, I'm being fair.
I feel we all had high hopes that Florian Wirtz would translate his football that he played in the Bundesliga and Champions League in Germany over to England straight away. It obviously hasn't happened because he walked into it difficult. But I don't know if you guys noticed that goal he scored at Anfield on the weekend. That was like the noise sounded like a cup-winning, title-winning goal. The way that the crowd reacted, they want him to do so well.
And they know he is doing well. It's just been that final piece.
He's getting there.
And his chance creation has been at the top of the EPL. Right? So it's just that it hasn't been capitalised on a great deal. He could have been sitting in an incredible position.
Classic example, it was just into the second half at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, where he came up with something that I reckon 0.01% of players can do. This backheel flick assist, chance missed. So if that goes in, it looks like the greatest assist of all time.
He's in the top 3% of those, which we're going to talk about now, right? That's expected assists, which means that usually the passes he's making would have been finished, and therefore he'd be sitting as one of the best assist makers in all of Europe. Let's talk about that when you're ready, but that's, I think, an excellent example of being able to get a little bit more insight into how well he's actually doing, and the people around him need to do a bit better.
You've seen big players come to clubs and then have that release moment, which it felt like, that goal. Can you imagine Florian Wirtz in the second half of the season goes like that?
That's what it felt like. It felt like relief as well from the crowd, because he has been working his socks off. There's no doubt about that. He's been trying to do, but the quality that we came to expect from him at Bayer Leverkusen has been lacking. There have been problems around him, like Fozzie made a good point. That has been, we know, with the Mo Salah incident.
Everything.
We know there have been other players that haven't been quite at their best. We also know they've been conceding goals like they've never done, in the past, especially with, Kanate, Van Dijk and Alisson in goals. Madashmatvili has come in as a goalkeeper as well. But look, I think that they're on the way back. They've had a good little spell. They are, 10 points, I think it is, off the title. I still wouldn't rule them out of that because really they win one. Arsenal lose against Aston Villa. They beat Leeds. That's only 7 points. That's absolutely nothing at this stage of the season. And let's hope for his sake and Liverpool's sake that it now keeps rolling on. It was always going to take, as it does any player, time for them to adjust to the intensity and the pace of the Premier League. And slowly but surely, like I said, it hasn't been through want of trying, but he's getting there. And Mo Salah will be back. It looks as though Egypt are definitely qualified for the knockout stages, so that could be end of January for them. And we know Isak is out for a while, so he's going to have to really step up during this period.
Fozzie mentioned it, XG.
Yeah.
So we've had this maybe on the rundown for a few weeks now, but we thought, no, let's do it. Let's end 2025 with a bang and talk about XG, which sometimes I reference as XBS. And I won't let you know what the BS stands for, but you can take a guess. You're right over there, boss?
No, I'm just getting it up here, so I've got it right in front of me.
Did you
so
get
I can
that
give
iPad for Christmas? It's
I
like a
did.
new toy.
I did. No, I always look down, but I just want to make sure we get this factually right. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So XG, the basic knowledge is that it's the chances of a goal being capitalised on the basis
being
of
scored
on the basis of an average player's history. Like the average.
It's the average.
Well, yeah. Well, it's
the average.
The most important variables are distance to goal, angle to goal. Okay.
But it's on a data set from the
past. From
all goals scored.
From the past.
All goals
scored. Working backwards from all goals scored.
Big chance.
Yep.
Yeah. Body part. Is it a header or is it a foot? Yeah. Type of. Then you've got, with Fozzie was saying before, what type of assist is it? Is it a through ball for them? Is it a cross? Is it a pullback? And also pattern of play as well is taken into consideration. So is it on the counter-attack? Is it, during attacks? Is it a, direct free kick, corner or so forth? We also know for penalties there's a set mode. So there's a 0.79. So the least chance of there being scored a goal is 0.01.
Yeah.
So that may be like a shot from a halfway line. Whereas it's between that, 0.00 and 1. 1 being basically a tap in from 10 centimetres
the
out.
goal line.
Yeah?
Okay.
So that's what it is. So the penalties are 0.79, so about 80% chance of scoring. There's also a set thing for free kicks and also a set thing for corners, depending on
So the question I want to ask, so that sets the parameters.
Yeah, that's
the question I want to ask,
for you.
has it skewed how we view football? Unnecessarily so.
How? Me personally, I don't think so.
Are you suggesting it has?
No,
I don't understand how it has.
I think that it's shown that even though you could be the better side and created the better chances, as we well know as football fanatics, things can happen that you can't legislate for. Goalkeeper could be absolutely outstanding against you. And then all of a sudden, you go up the other end and score a goal. And you've had, like, for example, the other day, just to give an example, first half, right? If you just went and watched the highlights of Chelsea versus Aston Villa, and you saw the whole, you say, oh my God, unbelievable. You know, Unai Emery, Aston Villa, they're 3 points off the lead, they've beaten Chelsea. The first half, that was the first time in the whole of Unai Emery's reign at Aston Villa, they didn't even have a shot on target. If you go and look at the expected goals, you see how well Chelsea did play. Now, if you watch the full game... But do you?
So you're saying it's effective. So you see the XG and you believe that it reflects how well Chelsea have done. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it gives you
we're trying to work out whether it's effective or not.
It gives you... It's not perfect. It's not perfect, that's what I'm saying, because originally it was based upon expected value of shares. That's what it came from. Okay, data-driven. What people used to go to the stock market and say the expected value of these shares of Adam Peacock .co Limited, the expected value next week will be $10. That's what it was based on. That's what they took it from. So, but I think, although it's not perfect, it's the best thing to look at if you haven't got the time to look at the whole game, or you're not a football fanatic, to turn around and say, you know what, to be fair, if you're talking in terms of the manager and so forth, because obviously when things aren't going well, the first thing that people think about, especially in power, is should we change managers? Well, somebody can actually say, well, hang on a minute, just look at these games. Their expected goals, based on what I said at the start, has actually been better in 4 out of the 5 games.
Well, I think the point is not everyone is for it. Who was it? Was it Martin O'Neill? Was recently? Was it Martin O'Neill?
Not sure, missed this one.
Oh, he was the former manager.
Recent Celtic
who had made a comeback, and only a couple of days prior he was on TV, and so he is a contemporary manager who has been, successful in some degree over the last 20 years, very well-known figure, and he was just slaughtering it, saying this is just an absolute farce, this is just a joke, why is anyone talking about it? So there is that view there.
Yeah.
So I think I'm interested in what your understanding is.
Look, there's a place for it, but I think it's overblown. And I think it's relied upon too heavily to find out who deserved to win a game of football. When, firstly, you're setting aside, by virtue of collecting the data and the parameters around the data, it's undervaluing creativity and genius. But
Why?
by nature of it. Because
Why is it?
you're basically setting the figure of XG on the basis of what an average player can do.
So what are you going to do? But what are you going to base it on, like Messi?
Well, you base it on your own eyes. You base it on the fact that, he's a really good player, actually, and he can do things that other players can't. So put aside the XG figure. I look at, the top 11 teams in Germany, their XG has been underestimated. Like, they've scored more goals than XG indicates.
Okay.
Manchester City, they're 10 goals down. They've scored 10 more goals than XG is predicted. Barcelona, 10 goals more. PSG, 10 goals more. This is just this season. Doesn't that tell you that maybe that they've undervalued how good a player... how good players are?
Well,
in front of
I
goal
would say
in
no, but that's I think it's the right question.
Yeah, that's the right question.
I would say no.
A fair point.
And the reason is because just go back prior to XG, which I really like. The thing about it is what would happen is what you're saying is one person would say, we played fantastic, we created great chances, we deserve to win. And the other person would say, well, we defended really well and we only need one chance and we deserve to win. And there was no objective benchmark for people to actually have some reality about what actually occurred in the game.
Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that what football is? You can debate it until the cows come home.
Well, you can still debate. I like both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I like both
Same.
of them.
In the past, people would look at possession. That's what
and
possession
coaches would always say, well, we were the better team.
We had more of the ball. And this is a step above that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that was a really good example. We dominated the game. Well, how did you dominate the game? Well, because we had all the ball and we had field position. Let's say you're in the middle of the field, so we weren't just playing out from the back. We were able to keep the ball in the centre of the field. Okay, so we were the dominant team.
Yeah.
But is the dominant team one that keeps the ball and doesn't have a shot on goal, or is the dominant team one that counterattacks 3 times and wins 3-0? This is the age-old question in football, which is why we love the game.
Yeah.
So what XG was I think, an effective attempt at trying to work out what is efficiency and assessing different styles of play as to whether you actually had an opportunity to win that game. What I like about it in particular is it does hold coaches accountable, right? So coaches can no longer say, which they would ad infinitum, is, oh, we did fantastic and we did this and that and we should have won the game. Well, you shouldn't have won the game because actually, whilst you did all of these things well, once you got into the final third, which is where you have to win the game down there, unless you're Beckham hitting it from, once you got down there, you were not able to organise your team in a way that put you in positions where you were likely to score. Okay?
But isn't that shot on target? Didn't we already have that?
Well, yeah,
well, it depends.
You can say
you could have shot on target from 50 metres.
I can say to you about those.
From... Right.
Yeah, depending on those variables.
Giving you a little more detail.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a
XG
is a pre-shot model. Expected goals on target, the other one, that's a post-shot. That's probably a little bit more accurate at the moment. But that's the progress, okay?
Yeah.
So XG measures the quality of the chance that a side makes, especially expected goals on target, builds on this to tell us what a team managed to do with these chances. So there you go. So effectively, XG is a pre-shot model, whereas expected goals on target is a post-shot
which is fine because you're getting into positions and people are skying it over.
Yeah, or hitting it straight to the goalkeeper.
So the reason why I like it, is because you can say, OK, we're organising ourselves getting into these positions where, on average, we should score. Now, let's deal with your issue with the higher quality of player. So if you're going to have a data set, it has to be based on goals that are scored. It can't be based only on the top 10% of players in the world because most players are never going to be there.
This is where I reckon
unless you need an XG for Man City.
But no, you should have an XG for individual players. Like Erling Haaland has got enough data in his bank to say, oh, let's work out his XG. I'm not saying it's completely wrong. I'm just saying that
it's not perfect.
They do have that.
They've skewed it off.
They do have that. That's what clubs are now analysing. So also, you see clubs like Brentford, clubs like Bournemouth, clubs like Brighton. What I also like is because they're actually using the data effectively, and it also is data on coaches, by the way. So therefore, if you're talking about building through the back third, control possession in the middle, chance creation from wide, centre, or the key boxes, all that area. These clubs are looking at the development of teams, of young coaches all over Europe, and keeping an eye on who's actually effectively building teams. Now, we never used to have that. The only parameters you could have are those who won trophies, right? And that doesn't provide for someone who takes a team with lesser money, like a Ranieri did with Leicester, for example. Yeah. And so what's happening now is your coaches, De Zerbi and these, are being identified on the basis of this is the amount of money that they have available to spend. This is the level of quality of their players based on the player data, and they're taking this group of players from here to there. Yeah. Right? So therefore, it's given us an ability, I think, to be able to kind of hold everyone accountable in football and work out on a kind of consistent basis as to how everyone's getting the job done.
I get that. Yeah. And I get that, but I feel it's taken away the feel of viewing football. Yeah. I get that, it's a lot more in, like a lot more detailed about... Hang on a second.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. It's a lot more detailed about trying to work out where players are going, where they've been, what's their potential, what's their upside. Same with coaches, all of that. But in terms of the parameters of a game, I think it's completely overblown on the basis of creativity is undervalued, and that's the key commodity.
That's a great point, but I understand why.
But if you keep it in context, I'm going to say there's always exceptions. Right.
There's always leads to the expected goals. So therefore, I don't understand why.
But there's those variables. The XG is taken on the average player throughout this huge data set that they've got, but they're not taking into account what Ryan Cherky can do with the ball, which is anything compared to the average player in the Premier League.
There is always...
Which is still a high-quality player.
But that's how you value Cherky. Surely that's how you value him.
Yeah, but there's other variables as well. If you're winning 2 or 3-0 at half-time, right, OK, second half, most probably, not always, again, always exceptions, you'll probably have less possession and your expected goals will be completely down in comparison to the opposition. But the game, by all intents and purposes, is over. That's because they'll be attacking you. So those are the things to take. That's where the feel comes in. So you can look, you can actually look at those figures and go, OK, well, let's look at these figures. Now we're going to put the feel in. Let's have a look at those figures as opposed to the games and the games that they played and how they played. Cherky, you mentioned Cherky. OK, let's have a look. But the fact that he did 10 dribbles, he might have been unsuccessful in 8, but the 2 he made, basically one made a goal, one scored a goal. Yeah. That's where the feel comes in for it. But it just gives you a general baseline, and it will get better and better. Well, there'll be, in 10 years' time, there'll be another method that's even better.
Nothing
like for me,
will beat the eye.
Yeah? No,
nothing will beat the eye, and nothing will beat the feel.
But it just gives you better things to back. It just gives you better things to back it up. If you've got a different argument, for example.
But what if you don't need it?
But you do.
But not everyone has. But not everyone does, right? Yeah. So if we're having an argument, just say Fozzie's...
The number of people who can watch a game and actually understand in detail what's actually occurring.
It's very few. Yeah. No, just say Fozzie's arguing for Bayer Leverkusen, right? He's saying they are the better team. Yeah. Look how they play, but they're 2-0 down, right? I can turn around and say and argue the other side, but we can both then revert to expected goals or expected goals on target to say, well, look, this is another thing to back up my argument. Here's to back up my argument. Then it's up to the people to decide for themselves.
Well, I'm with... There's one person who's going to have the final say on this. And oddly enough, it comes from the A-League, and it's Adam Griffiths.
No, we didn't even look at stats. There's too much data in the world. AI just wants to suck it all up, spit it all out. We don't care about stats anymore. Just AI can never replace us because we have emotion and feeling. Okay, so that's the number one thing we deliver today. Emotion, feeling, clear message. Yep.
I'm with you, AG.
I hear exactly where he's
very funny.
No, I hear exactly where he's coming from,
yeah.
and it won't. In my opinion, it won't completely replace it. It will add to it.
Apart
it
from
will
XG,
add to it, yeah.
But by the way, that was the wrong question, actually, because the point is not... The data we're talking about is not the fact that they conceded 18 before, because
it's just a general take on what you can do with data.
He's not a fan of data, again.
But
he's doing
times
great.
that you can put it somewhere where you can't find it again.
Very pleased.
Anyway, our last question for 2025 on At a Time. What are we leaving behind in 2025? What do you want to take into 2026 in football and say, we don't have that anymore, we left that in the past, get rid of it?
Yeah, players not looking at the ball from either free kicks or corners or long throws and just looking at the goalkeeper. You can't do that. You have to be looking at the ball. You can't impede the progress of another player. You're entitled to stand where you want to stand.
When is this happening?
But continually.
Just about every corner.
Free kicks, corners and long throws. You're entitled to stand wherever you want on those things and you can stand. But you can't not look at the ball and, like, for example, if it's you, the goalkeeper, just watching where you go and impede somebody. You can't do that. And we've seen it time and time again. Some referees are blown, some haven't. But in my opinion, it's causing havoc and it's wrong. And it's actually in the laws. If you look at the laws of the game under I think it's either direct free kicks or indirect free kicks, impeding another player, whether it be goalkeeper or not, especially not looking at the ball as it's coming in, is a foul.
Foz?
Wasting time. In the EPL this season, the ball in play has gone down quite significantly by almost 2 minutes, actually, on last season. And the time added on has gone up. So the average this season is 100 minutes. So there's 10 minutes being added on to games, right? And yet the amount of time when the ball is not in play has also increased. So in other words, fans and us as viewers and commentators and analysts are sitting around for minutes more just watching nothing, watching people rub the ball and clean the ball for their throws and walk to corners and take way too much time.
It's like NFL.
Yeah.
It's like setting up the offensive line for some play.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so I think we have to find a way to speed that up. I just think it's ridiculous. So basically, if you go, and sit in a stadium and watch an EPL game this season, you're sitting there for 45 minutes. We're watching no play, right? So the question for the game is, how do we get that back up and keep the ball in play, maximum amount of time, maximum enjoyment for us, maximum entertainment, maximum mistakes, maximum all the beauty that football gives. Because at the moment, there's these teams are taking advantage of it. Gunners, for example, are one of, I think, the top 2 slowest to take corners. Now, they're actually, I think, the best at corners, but they're taking forever to get over there, then to set themselves up and da-da-da. We have to find a way to speed it up.
I'm telling you, they found a way with goalkeepers hanging on the ball for too long. You see now it's 8 seconds, whatever.
It's true.
That's coming. I reckon that's coming in the future, that IFAB bring it in, that you can only spend a certain amount of time to take a throw in a corner.
I agree.
And what about you, Adam?
I would say get rid of... I feel like I'm railing against modern football here. And
Yes,
just want
you
the good
are.
old days back. Academy players, this is a weird one. PSR values academy players as the
PSR's
most
on the way
valuable
out.
player. Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
But maybe adjusted some way. There's going to be some parameter, but academy players are valued the most. I take into consideration Jacob Ramsey.
Yep.
Aston Villa celebrated the fact that they were able to get rid of this guy towards the end. Personally, they didn't want to get rid of him, but for their balance sheet, it was like, wow, that's great. We succeeded here. We sold him for £40 million. He's a local kid that's come through. It's going to look great on our balance sheet. It's going to allow our football team. Whoa. Isn't the whole point of football clubs to represent, firstly, your local area and a group of people?
Very true.
And if you bring that local kid through and all of a sudden he becomes your most valuable, sellable, aren't we going in the wrong direction?
Well, that's very true. Very, very true of what you said. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, exactly what I said, but there's a flip side to that coin as well. It also incentivises that you go local rather than go worldwide to scout local players.
Yeah.
So there's 2 ways to looking at that. But what you said is not wrong. I can understand. But I think what they're trying to get at is they want to produce more local talent. So by making that more valuable to sell eventually, still it's producing more local talent, i.e. English talent. So eventually it's going to help the most important thing in the game, which would be the English national team. That's how I think the thinking is behind it. But I take exactly from what you said, because you really, I mean, when Celtic won their, became the first British team to win the European Cup, all 12 players were born within 2 or 3 kilometres of parkhead. So
Yeah.
that's the type of thing you want to be looking at.
You're never going to have
Yeah.
that again, but
Yeah.
like this
no,
should
but
be-
that's the aim. I understand.
Yeah.
But you're saying academy players or you're saying local players?
Well, same thing, but
Well, it's not
that's
always the
been
same thing.
skewed because of the academy rules in England now, where it's like you're a local player if you spent 3 years at the academy. You get there when you're 16 from the other side of the
so
country.
they don't necessarily correlate.
No.
Look at the Chelsea academy, for example.
Well, it's a factory.
Yeah. So the thing is, whatever, I think we all agree, whatever incentives can be implemented for clubs to make sure they do invest in their academies, whether it's local or otherwise, is vitally important. How then does
that's a good argument.
Bournemouth have an opportunity then to try and challenge the big clubs, or does that just entrench the power of the existing big clubs?
That is the past
Because
argument.
it sounds like a Real Madrid rule to me.
Well, that is the argument that's been around for a long time. That's the argument that a lot of, specifically Manchester City had. And would be the argument, for example, Adam, if you were to become a multi-billionaire, which I believe one day you will, and you decide to go and buy a club in the UK, let's say hypothetically a club like Charlton Athletic, and you would like them within 5 years to be right up the top, right up there with Manchester City, right up there with Arsenal.
Yep.
How are you supposed to build your turnover to a point within 5 to 10 years of the fact that you can compete financially with these clubs?
Exactly.
It basically defeats the
you have no
purpose because
turnover.
you can't get the success in
chicken
that
and egg.
time. Basically, that others have done, worked over perhaps 100 years. So watch for more in this space.
I am going to go away, enjoy New Year's Eve, and dream of becoming a billionaire like Bozza reckons I will be.
Multi.
Yeah,
Why not?
Exactly. Thank you, gents. Happy New Year.
All right.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year's.
This has been another Stan Sport production.